guys, welcome to the channel again. Today we're going to cover a line interval or scan gap. It's also the DPI. In laser world, this is all about the spacing that goes in between each step, the distance between each step of the machine moving from the front of the machine to the back, so along your y-axis. So every time the machine say it starts here, it's going to come across, and then it's going to move up, and then it's going to come across again. And this is how it's filling your engraving, depending on, in Lightburn you can set it at 180 degrees, and you can have it come the opposite way. So this spacing determines if you're overlapping. It determines your speed of your engraving, and not necessarily your millimeters per inch or your lines per inch, but the amount of traversal moves, the amount of back and forth moves that are in a project. So if you had 1,000 traversal moves and you had great quality, but it took an hour to do, and then you changed it to 500, and then it takes 30 minutes to do, but you still have a very good quality, you've just saved yourself a ton of time by one small adjustment. And let me show you real quick what this move looks like spaced out. So if you look at it, notice the gap distance between. Now this is at 0.06 inch. So as you can assume, the closer it is, the more times it's going to go back and forth like that. And that's your line interval spacing. Looking at this graphic, you can see there's several different line intervals. And not only is the spacing different, but you can tell that there's depth. The tighter the tolerance is, or the tighter the scan gap is, line interval. So at the 0.006, you can see that there's actual depth because it is overlapping these lines. They're almost on top of each other. And 0.006 is really, if you're working with tumblers and stuff like that, I would probably not go any higher, because you're going to start to have staircased edges, pixelated edges. So there is a very, very careful balance of how you use this to maximize your speed. But if you're going from a 0.002 on your engraving of, let's say, a tumbler again, and you're able to maintain a good quality at a 0.006, we'll demonstrate how much time that will actually save. Not only is this related to time, but it's also a good option if you're working with acrylic. You can use this as a depth. You can create deeper engravings and have almost a three-dimensional look inside the acrylic, as well as you can create, in the next photo, you're going to see you can create different shades of color just by using this line interval. But in relation to speed, this is your biggest contributor. You're only going to get so much speed out of the actual movement of your laser head. So when it comes to setting your speed and power and your line interval, you're capped out at a certain amount of speed depending on your machine. This is where you save time. Now, looking at this graphic, I use the same exact intervals as we saw in the previous graphic, but they're in a circle formation. This way you can see them all together and the shading and how you could create, if somebody has a multicolored logo and you need to put that on wood and they want to replicate that the best that they can, you're not going to replicate color, but you can shade it from blue, which is dark, to yellow, to green. So you can create that feel of shading just by using the scan gap or line interval, depending on what software you're using. Looking at this in Lightburn, we can actually see and test how much of a difference it makes in the actual engraving time. So to do this, you need to use your layers. So each color obviously represents a different setting. So if we look over here at this blue layer, I have everything set to the same speed and power except for the red down there. And if we double click on it, we see that we have different interval settings, but everything else is the same. So that's how I was able to achieve that circle graphic with different shading. Now let's get rid of this and just show you the difference of speed. And we'll do a preview real quick. Currently, we are at a total of 28 minutes and 54 minutes and 19 seconds. Your rapid movements right here, let's turn on traversal moves. So if we zoom in, we can see the amount of traversal moves that are in there. Each one of these lines represents the laser head going back and forth. So let's take a look at it. Remember, that was 54:19. And we are currently at 0.007 on the red. And I think the blue is where we're going to save some time, 0.006. This is obviously a large graphic, but just for giggles, let's move this up to 8. And this one up to 9. Just by changing that, we've limited our traversal moves, and we've saved over 10 minutes of time. And you can see the rapid movements have gone down as well. So you would think that like a normal graphic for, let's turn this black, all black. A normal graphic for a tumbler is 3 inches or so. And typically you're running that at 0.2 to 0.3. And sometimes you don't have a choice. If you have thicker paints, thicker powder coatings, you don't have a choice. You have to overlap that beam. You have to run a 0.002 just to remove all of that powder coating in one shot. Running a tumbler a second time usually isn't an option, unless of course you have a Rotoboss. There's your plug, bud. Then you're more likely to be able to run that. So we've changed that. I'm going to move it down to a 3-inch. So that would be our graphic we're putting on a tumbler, and it would be the other way around. So let's do true interval. Let's see here. Sorry. So we have 4 minutes at a, 581 rapid movements, 4 minutes, and that was at a 0.002. So say we're working on a thinner coated cup, and we know for sure that we can push this to a 0.005 line interval. Well, if we're able to do that and still maintain a high quality image without pixelation or staircasing of the edges, let's see how much time we can save. So now we've cut almost everything in half. And if you're doing 100 or 1,000 tumblers, this is huge. I appreciate you guys joining in. We are going to try to keep the content coming. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're not part of House of Lasers, please head over and join. We have lots of cool free stuff, discounts, and giveaways. We really do appreciate you tuning in, and hopefully you're learning something while you're here. You guys have a great one. Thanks.